watching Seven Rivers Sports here on KQEG. I'm your host, Terry Erickson. Each week, an inside look into sports, into wellness, into fitness. Hey, today, a special show. We are going to catch up with a local baseball hero, an icon, a good friend, Damian Miller. Time to go back a little bit in time, but talk about Major League Baseball with Damian Miller. Thanks for being on the show, Damian.
Glad to be here.
You're a good friend, and we appreciate you taking the time. You know, our family took our annual trip to spring training in the Cactus League. Just returned a couple days ago, as we talked before we went on the air. And it's one of our special trips of the year. Going back to when you played, we'd always come out and watch you. Let's reflect a little bit on the meaningful experiences you had in spring training.
I always liked spring training. For one, it was a good reason to get out of here in the middle of February when it was 2 degrees here and 80 back there. But everybody kind of gets that itch, especially if you're a baseball fan and have to sit here in the wintertime when you hear the crack of the bat. Baseball people really love that, and so did I. And to get back out there and get things going, see your teammates again who are close friends, and get ready for an upcoming season that who knows what's in store for you. So hopefully it was the beginning of a good year for us, and it was a lot of fun. And spring training is a great place to go. If you're a baseball purist, spring training is a great place to go because the players are more accessible. They're just more open to signing autographs and talking to people, and it's just it's kind of fun for the players as well as the fans.
Did you ever get kind of tired of that, though? Like, did you ever get tired of Terry bringing all of his kids down and wanting to have access to Damian Miller or all the other people that wanted to shake your hand or get an autograph?
You don't really get tired of it just because, at one time you were that kid, that wanted to meet the players. And so you have to kind of remember that as a player. You have to reflect back and say, you know what? I just made this kid's day. I might have a fan for life right here if I just sign this. It'd take me 2 seconds to sign this kid's autograph or shake hands with the dad and introduce myself to the kids or whatever. And, that's just, it's kind of it's just part of the job, really, is to go out there and do that. And, the guys before us, like Cal Ripken, I know he was great at signing autographs, staying late. So you kind of look at those guys, and this is kind of what you have to do.
But you said it was your job, and you looked at it that way. But not everybody sees it that way. And again, I don't know how many of our viewers maybe aren't lucky enough to know you like I do. And you always put fans and other people first. Kind of like an old quote, too much that is given, much is expected. It's a biblical phrase. It's used in a lot of ways. So you always kind of demonstrated that attitude, Damian.
Yeah, just kind of my nature, I think. I don't know if it's from my Midwest upbringing or what, but being humble is a very important part of who I was. Just because I was a big league baseball player for so many years doesn't mean that that I'm better than anybody else. For me, it was my job. It's a little more of a glorification of a job, really. It was a dream of mine, but I never once thought that I was better than anybody else because it was my job. It was just who I was, and that's my personality is that way.
What an interesting thing to say, though. A friend of mine, I'm not sure how many of our viewers, you probably don't know Vince Kuby, who was a great athlete at Logan. And he's only in his early 20s now, but we umpire together, and he's gotten to be a good friend. Said almost the same thing. I said, one thing I found interesting about you when I was teaching at Logan, I'd see you around, how humble you were, how nice you were. It was just kind of unusual for you to see that kind of personality. I said, why did you have that kind of personality? What brought that out? He said, Terry, I never really thought I was better than anyone else. Wow. And you just said the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's really reflective of your family, too, isn't it?
It's probably, yeah. My dad's that way, my mom's that way. They just, we were expected to do well in school and expected to play hard on the field, wherever you're at. But at the end of the day, they just hope you had fun and hope you did the best you can. And for me, my brothers are the same way, very humble. And I think that's just the right way to teach kids nowadays. And and I coach nowadays, and it's different today than it was when I was a kid. There's way more expectations on kids nowadays than there was when I was a kid. They have more. They're expected to be better socially, academically, athletically. They have all these expectations, but we always forget that we have to let them be kids. And, so hopefully I can have that reflection on some kids along the way.
Interesting you said that. Now, today, again, we're catching up with Damian Miller, local icon, Major League Baseball hero in the area, no question about it. Not just because of his God-given athleticism, but because of his personality and attitude. Josie and Jesse, catching up with, and your wife, catching up with the Damian Miller family. You said things are a little more difficult. Does that bother you a little bit, raising kids and seeing what they're exposed to?
Oh, it bothers me every day. That's why you have to be so protective of these kids nowadays, and it's unfortunate. When I was 8 years old in West Salem, I was on my own. Check in with mom and dad every now and then and come home for dinner, but then back out and doing whatever. Now it's just, and things nowadays too are everything is so structured. I think kids, this is my personal opinion, but I think kids develop skills and talent when they're just playing in the driveway or just playing a game at Huska Park, doing whatever. And I think they develop better skills that way. And, and my kids that way, my daughter's going off to college next year, which I can't believe. And she's graduating high school, and Jesse's going to be a senior next year. And, as a parent, as well as all the kids that you had and your grandkids, that you just try to be a positive role model for those kids, and not by a lot of times not by what we tell them with our mouths, but how we live our lives. I think that's a real key that I've been trying to do the last 10 years or so.
Well, it just seemed like that's why you and Jeannie were raised, and you said some things bother you, the structured, maybe the expectations. Mm-hmm. Let's expand on that a little bit. I feel the same way, that maybe there's too many games. Let's just talk about baseball in particular, youth baseball and so on. Mm-hmm. Maybe too many games. And, I coached for many years, and as I reflect back now, maybe we did a little bit of that too much. And the game, according to some people, is over-coached and under-taught. And I don't think that was the case when I was coaching, I hope.
Right.
But when you look at kids playing ball now, for our viewers, give us your assessment of youth sports.
Yeah, I mean, kids, the youth sports nowadays, the kids let's say kids at 12 years old, they're way better than what we were at 12 years old, just because they've been taught how to do it right since they were little. We never had that coaching, and my dad probably never had that coaching, since they were little. But it just, for me, at 12 years old, the W's aren't as important as we want them to be. Everybody wants to win. Instead of let's teach these kids life lessons and teach them to be good teammates. And as me personally, and I had some success at the big league level, but 99% of the guys in the big leagues, they want to be remembered not for what accomplishments they did personally, but if they were a good teammate. And if you teach these kids at 12 years old to be respectful to their teammates, be respectful to the other team, and be respectful to the game, I think that kind of gets forgotten nowadays, because the 12-year-old's going to Marshfield for a tournament during the weekend. I mean, you have 12 kids on the team and 9 play. I don't agree with that at all. If this is 12 years old, they're all 12. They're all 12 kids are going to play. Whether we get third place or fifth or first, it doesn't matter. As long as you can't give up on a kid at 12, because at 17, this kid could be the best player on his high school team, just because he's physically not developed as far along as some others of these kids. So that gets forgotten too in the whole scheme of things.
Interesting. Sports psychologists, the majority of ones I read, agree with that statement completely about playing time and make sure every kid experiences a magic moment. One author talks about just magic moment being not something that's Herculean, but just being able to hit the ball or make a catch or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, funny you talked about that, because I want to read to our viewers a quote from Randy Johnson and several managers, some sort of combining quotes, talking about Damian Miller as a big league player. He had a great appetite for knowledge, willing to take instruction, well-grounded, and appreciated the game, led without being flashy. He was a consummate teammate. Powerful quotes from well-known people. Mm-hmm. Thoughts?
I fooled them. No, I mean, that's the stuff you want to be remembered as. You know, that kind of, you want to be remembered as being that teammate that could be counted on. You want to be, I always wanted to be accountable to my teammates. So, you know, and that's great stuff that they said about me, and that is just beyond anything I can comprehend. But going back to the kids, and this goes along with that, it's kids when they're 12, they have to, I'm very competitive. I couldn't play at the level I did without being competitive. But at 12 years old, we have to learn how to lose just as much as we have to learn how to win. I'm not the guy who said, oh, nobody wins, everybody. Like, no, there has to be a winner and a loser for me. We have to win the game, so we have to learn how to lose in life, and I think that helps develop character, and you know, and that might have helped me gain those attributes that those guys talked about.
Not everybody, though, as we sort of sometimes stereotype young people, maybe because they're emotional after a loss, in one way or the other. Not everybody is sort of a cookie cutter personality where they accept losing or failure in the same way. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So sometimes it might seem like they're demonstrating a bad attitude, but they're really just so high-strung that it's just hard for them to accept failure.
Right. And what I learned from playing baseball is that you have to deal with failure. Otherwise, you're just going to get shoved by the wayside, because baseball is built on failure. It's how you deal with that and get ready for the next day.
Biggest failure, before we go to break, biggest failure that you can remember as a big league player?
As a big leaguer, oh man. You know, I look back, you have certain regrets, like I wish I would have not acted this way in this situation. Specifically, I don't remember what it was, but I remember feeling that.
But you kept it inside of you?
I kept it inside, and I wish I would have, you know, done things differently in how I reacted to my failure. You know, instead of pouting, especially when I was a younger player, because you really don't know how to be a big leaguer yet. And so that's why you have guys like Matt Williams or Jay Bell or Kurt Schilling, guys that say, this is how you do it. You know, and I had those guys in my career, which was great. So then when I became the older player, which doesn't happen very slowly, or it happens fast, then I was able to do that with the likes of maybe J.J. Hardy or a Billy Hall or somebody like that.
But at least from an attitudinal leadership standpoint, no huge regrets, because you modeled yourself exactly the way you how you wanted to share who you were all about, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's just step aside for a minute. When we come back, we're going to talk more with the icon and a good friend of the show, Damian Miller. We'll be right back.
At Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, we have assembled a championship team
who listens to what your needs are.
We install carrier comfort systems that improve the comfort, efficiency, and the air quality of your home and workplace.
We serve you with highly trained technicians who are prompt, friendly, and honest.
For Gold Star treatment, turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, your comfort is our business.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. Glad you joined us here this week. Today, our guest, Damian Miller. We're catching up with Major League Baseball and an icon and a sports hero in the greater La Crosse area. When we went to break off the air, we were talking a little bit about family. And the two things, when I think of you, I think of two words. And the two words are faith and family. And that's what's really kept you grounded. And we talked a little bit about that in the first half of the show, and we're going to go in a different direction in a minute. But faith and family were always a big part of you, and they still are. And you said to me off the air that you wanted to always spend time with your children, and that they didn't care if you went 4 for 4 or 0 for 4. They just wanted to see Dad at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was it was great, especially because when I was still playing, the kids were little. You know, your dad's still a hero. Now they're big teenagers, and now Dad's not the cool guy anymore. You know, but so I was always the hero for them. And you know, you come home from a bag, say I went 0 for 4 with 3 punch-outs, and you know, you're driving home going, oh man, this is good. One of those days, and you get home and the kids are still awake, and they just run to you no matter what. And even if I was 4 for 4, like you said, and I was happy driving home, the music cranked, and they couldn't care less if I was 4 for 4. So having that family, that little therapy time after a good or bad game was great for me.
I have the same feeling now with 15 grandchildren, and I go home and see them as my wife takes care of a few of them during the day, and I sneak home occasionally and every day actually, and it's exactly the same reaction, which is still a powerful reaction from young kids. You know, if in case some of our viewers didn't remember this, Damian Miller playing for West Salem. And drafted in the 20th round in 1990, played for the Twins, the D-backs, the Cubs, the Athletics, and finally with the Brewers. And I remember the whole Erickson family. Your defining moment, I'm sure, when you won the World Series at Yankee Stadium, and we were in front of the TV set watching that. As you reflect back to that, was that a defining moment in your whole career?
It's hard not to be. You know, and especially the year that it happened, it was shortly after 9/11. That was the year, and we played the Yankees. We were able to, unfortunately, when we played in New York, we took a bus down to Ground Zero, and to witness that, you know, people were still working and cleaning up everything, and you could still smell the electrical fires and the smell of busted concrete, stuff like that, and metal, and you know, you'd stand there and look, and it's like, wow, you just can't imagine planes flying over here into these buildings. And, you know, that made the World Series obviously more special because the country was it was very unified at that time, and being a part of the World Series, which ended up being one of the greatest World Series of all time. And I remember Game 4, Schilling was pitching, and I was catching. We were in the bullpen down there, and it's all where the Yankee monuments are of Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and all these, DiMaggio and all these people. And here I am. I'm this kid from West Salem at that time. The population was 2,180 people, and here I am in Yankee Stadium playing in a World Series, in Yankee Stadium. And Shilly and I are coming out of the bullpen after he got loose, getting ready to walk to the dugout, and he stops me, like puts his arm out, and he's like, we're just looking around. He goes, "Take this in right now. Take it in." And if he didn't say that, I wouldn't have, because we stood there and we looked, and it's just, you know, there's 60,000 people yelling, and, you know, the night before the president threw out the first pitch, and it was unbelievable. We had 3 bad games in New York. We ended up winning back in Arizona, but they were still awesome games and just unbelievable to be a part of.
Emotional yet when you think about it, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, when I grew up watching, one of my favorite catchers of all time was Carlton Fisk.
Mm-hmm.
Met him a couple of times and had your kind of build.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if he still is in good shape. Is still in good shape, but I presume he is. His physicality, his durability, and so on was incredible. Your favorite catcher from the past?
I really liked Jim Sundberg. Played for the Rangers for a long time, a little bit with the Brewers. I liked his style of play, and I also liked, I was probably a little bit older at that time. I really liked watching Tom Pagnozzi catch for the Cardinals. Defensively, solid offensively. I thought those two guys were kind of my, because Fisk might have been just I loved Carlton Fisk, but he was just a tad before me as far as generations of players. And but I actually met him at a golf outing, and after the golf outing, he came to me and started talking to me because he wanted to talk to me about my career. Like, he knew who I was and followed my, like,
sought you out.
Sought me out. I'm like, you're Carlton Fisk. What are you seeking me out for? So he was telling me, like, you know, I know you were more of a gap-to-gap. If you would have just hit more, 20 home runs, you could have done that. Like, to have a guy like Carlton Fisk, one of the greatest catchers of all time, do that to me, that was a pretty kind of a special moment.
Oh, absolutely. Top catchers in the game today: Buster Posey, Jonathan Lucroy. We know that name from the Rangers. Molina, Perez, and Sanchez were the Yankees. Are catchers today better? And are the ones I mentioned? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, those guys are very good players. I think Molina for sure is probably a Hall of Famer. Posey maybe. Jonathan Lucroy is having an unbelievable career. He's really improved defensively. He could always hit, but defensively he's really coming around, and he's you look at all those guys, the most important asset that these guys have is that they're leaders. If you look at all the World Series teams in the past, look at their catcher. They have solid catching. All the guys that won the World Series, their catcher is kind of the guy that's hiding, but he's the leader of that team. And those guys all will fit that bill, and that's kind of what's most important to me and probably to them as well.
When I think of Yankee catchers, I think the same thing.
Exactly. I mean, when I was playing Jorge Posada, he was kind of like the silent leader on that team. I mean, they had great players, but Posada was the guy. He was the glue. I might be biased when I tell people this, but the catchers are the glue that kind of holds it together. And I didn't, as a young catcher, you don't really realize that until you have older players or managers that I had in the minor leagues stressing to me how important that was.
I've always thought the same thing, so I absolutely agree. And we were blessed all my years of coaching to have great catchers too. Mm-hmm. Well, today again we're catching up with Damian Miller, retired major league player, has a field named after him in West Salem, and you had some great coaches too. And I just noticed, I thought about you a month or so ago when I read the paper, and I saw that sort of a local icon too in baseball in West Salem. Chuck Ely inducted into the WBCA Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You had some great coaches besides him.
Yeah, he was. His first year was my junior year, which was 1986. Yeah, I said that out loud. That was a long time ago. But I saw it in the paper as well, and I didn't know that he did that, so I emailed him and congratulated him on that, and well deserved. He's had a great career there. He's had a lot of great players too, and some great coaches with him along the way. And so I wish him the best this year. They should have a very good team again this year.
Things to watch in 2017 quickly. Cubs, of course, winning the World Series first time in 108 years, and remember watching that game 8-7 over the Indians after like a 20-minute delay. And can they repeat? I wonder. 103 games they won, and certainly they're predicted to be right there again with Lester and Arrieta and Hendricks and so on.
Yeah, with that front end of the rotation, they should be pretty solid. Just like any other team, it comes down to health and staying healthy, and because they're going to swing the bats. They got some offense on that team, and they play in that nice park for those guys to hit in. And but like the front end of the rotation, that's where they're going to win. Their bullpen is solid, but I don't see any reason why they shouldn't have a chance to repeat if they stay healthy. Brewers,
of course, are Brewers. Again, you retired from the Brewers. I think they won 73 games last year, lost about 89, something like that. But they've had some injuries already, Guerra and Susak and Garza. And what's your thought on, are the sports writers correct saying they're going to be fourth again and win about 80 games?
Yeah, probably. They're young and rebuilding, and they got some talent, though. And they got some talent at the minor league level. And especially with the injuries already happening within the last 2 days, they're able to call up guys who come in and do a good job for them. But position players-wise, they're young. They're going to learn how to be big leaguers. They're only going to get better. Craig Counsell, he's going to make sure they play the game the right way. He's for me personally, when they hired him, they hired the right guy, because if you guys remember how Counsell played, that's how he manages too. He plays the game the right way, 100%. We're going to play great defense. We're going to hit the ball the other way. We're going to play some small ball or steal some bases, take the extra base when we can. Stuff like that. That's hopefully that'll help him this year. Maybe finish better than fourth.
Good leader, as you said, and a good leader as a player, too. Well, before we end the show, I know we're catching up with Damian Miller again, your daughter graduating this year, going on to college. Son, Jesse, again at Cooley Christian, you're a volunteer coach there. Your thoughts on the family growing up and your coaching and being in the high school setting?
It's been great. It's been just an unbelievable blessing for us to be able to send our kids to school, or we sent them to school at Cooley Christian there. It's just it's kind of just becoming a second family to us, and Josie's been there since 2001 or whatever, and all of a sudden now she's going to be graduating high school, and it's a smaller school, smaller setting, so it's more intimate. I'm involved with all these kids. I've been coaching kids that have graduated the last couple of years, and it's like you see them up there standing on the stage like one of your kids graduating, you know. So it's hard. I mean, I'm sure you experienced all the kids that you coached along your career as well. But yeah, and we're trying to get more kids to the school, and
you're coaching.
And I'm coaching.
And you're like that. You're coaching basketball and baseball.
I coach basketball and baseball, and it's been great. You know, basketball this year, we ended up losing to Aquinas in the first round of the playoffs. I said if we keep it within 20, we won the game. We ended up losing by 20-some, but it was a great experience for our kids, and it was a packed gym and a lot of fun. And hopefully next year we'll have another chance at them, and we'll see what happens.
And Jesse playing baseball, and
Yep.
you're coaching, and that season has begun?
Yeah, we've started practice, play our first game Friday, and well, I don't know.
Is that an independent league schedule?
Yeah, we don't play in a conference or anything, but I don't think our chance of winning a state championship or anytime soon. But we'll compete and we'll have fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know with you coaching, maybe that's a bonus.
I don't know.
Each year when we start the baseball season, again, as we tape the show, spring training just ended, opening day just a couple days ago. And you're good enough to come on, and we hope that will continue in the next few years, as long as we have the show for you coming on, and we appreciate that. And best of luck coaching and with your family and in life as you continue to on your journey to be fit and be spiritually deep and all the things that you do to be an outstanding person in this community.
Thank you very much. I'll do my best.
All right. We'll be back with some closing thoughts right after this.
At Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, we have assembled a championship team
Who listens to what your needs are.
We install Carrier comfort systems that improve the comfort, efficiency, and the air quality of your home and workplace.
We serve you with highly trained technicians who are prompt, friendly, and honest.
For Gold Star treatment, turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. Your comfort is our business.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Damian Miller, a good friend of the show, an icon, now the head baseball coach at Cooley Christian High School in West Salem, and a wonderful guest. Well, we enjoy bringing the show to you each and every week, and we appreciate you watching. If you ever have a thought for a topic or a guest, please contact us here at the studio. I'm your host, Terry Erickson, hoping that you have an active and a healthy week ahead. So long from us, all of us here at Seven Rivers.